the whole evolution to cloud and consumerization of IT, and also the changes in the way that we work. It's many devices, different form factors, different locations. All of this has significant impact in the way that organizations or IT departments within businesses look at IT security. So do you see any changes there? I mean, we've already touched on bring your own device in the early 2000s, but broader than that.
I started my career at Symantec, on Norton Antivirus. It became Symantec Antivirus, then Symantec Enterprise Endpoint Protection. So very endpoint focused. In the late 2000s, security was, I don't want to say it was moving from the endpoint to the network, but certainly when you looked at the budgets in the enterprise, they were starting to spend more and more of their budgets on network security than on endpoint security. So you saw this shift. And why? Because it was all about, hey, let's make these networks safe places to work, a focus on prevention at the network. So you started seeing, IPSs in addition to your firewalls, certain types of content control, web filtering, stuff at your egress points in your enterprise. So you just saw, the network security market really, just growing 2x what the endpoint market was growing. And that was all around, hey, your network becomes this safe place. Network access control was another one of these big things that was part of that effort. But then what happened, I think in the last 10 years, is that the endpoint started to matter more. And you certainly see that today. I mean, I was just looking at some research that showed that the number one investment area today is the endpoint security market in the enterprise, which it makes sense if you think about it. So if my employees aren't getting on the network anymore, then all that network security isn't really helping me ensure the security and compliance and availability and integrity and confidentiality, CIA of my enterprise. I'm going to have to put something on the endpoint that does that. And so whereas 10 years ago, you might say, hey, all the investment needs to go towards the network. If I'm thinking about it from what you build perspective, which is usually perspective I come from, hey, 10 years ago, the network was the place to be. Palo Alto Networks, which is still killing it, don't get me wrong. But Palo Alto Networks, 10 years ago, you would like to have owned a part of, because that's where all the investment and the growth was happening. Well, the last 10 years, last 5-6 years especially, enterprises have realized that, hey, I'm not going to get to where I need to be from a security perspective if I don't have something that's ensuring the confidentiality, integrity, availability of my endpoints. And so endpoint security has become more important. And you've seen, new vendors in this space, CrowdStrike being the poster child, but SentinelOne, Cylance, the Symantec, which doesn't exist anymore, the McAfee Enterprise, which is soon not going to exist anymore. They all have also come out with kind of next generation endpoints. So the endpoint matters more again. And it goes back to this concept, which I've hit on a couple times, which is, hey, if you're not on the network, but you still need to make sure this device is secure, you've got to have something on the endpoint to do that. And that's why, by the way, companies like Zscaler, another company that's killing it right now, has historically been that kind of sitting at the egress, do web filtering. They've got this huge infrastructure out on the internet to do all this web filtering capabilities. But in this new world, they have to have something on the device to be able to see the traffic to do something with it. So Zscaler has an endpoint product that they need on every device. So this is a long way of saying that over the last, the last 20 years, first 10 was a move to the network. The last 10 have been a move to the endpoint again. So it's almost like it's come full cycle. As I think about the future, I see the need for security in two places. I think endpoint remains a requirement. If they're not on your network and you don't own the network that they're on, you've got to have something that tells you that device is safe and secure. And so the enterprise-owned devices aren't going to go away. They're going to be out there. But even if it's not an enterprise-owned device, you've got to have something that ensures the confidentiality, integrity, availability of that transaction, if you will. So that's one part of it. The other part of it, of course, is the cloud and cloud security. I think that's where your applications are going to sit. That's where access control is going to need to be done. And so the cloud is probably the next 10 years. So endpoint and cloud are going to be huge. Now you could say, right, that cloud is basically the next generation of network security because it's, all the cloud is servers sitting in somebody else's closet instead of yours. And all this cloud security is network security principles applied either in your cloud or in your applications on somebody else's cloud.